It started with a missing woman and ended with one of the most haunting discoveries in modern American history. A stretch of sand on Long Island, hiding secrets for over a decade. This is the story of the Gilgo Beach Killer, a man who blended into society, buried his victims in plain sight, and remained silent for over a decade. In this video, we peel back the shadows to reveal how a trail of terror surfaced from the dunes. It began with a cry for help, a voice, fractured by fear, crackling across a 911 dispatcher's line.
State police.
Yeah, there's somebody after me.
I'm sorry?
There's somebody after me.
Where are you?
There's somebody after me.
Okay, where are you?
There's somebody after me.
Where are you, ma'am?
I don't know.
The caller was Shannan Gilbert, 24 years old, a young escort from upstate New York, caught in a nightmare unfolding just beyond the reach of safety. On May 1, 2010, Shannan had traveled from New Jersey to a client's home in the secluded Oak Beach community, a wealthy, gated stretch of Long Island surrounded by wetlands and Atlantic winds. At 4:51 a.m., Shannan placed a chilling 911 call that would last over 20 minutes. Her voice was panicked and disoriented, saying, "They're trying to kill me." She refused to leave the area, but ran from house to house, banging on doors and pleading for help. Several residents saw her, confused and concerned, but she vanished into the marsh before police arrived. What was Shannan running from that terrifying night? And how did such a desperate cry for help go unanswered? Despite an intensive search, Shannan remained missing, and what authorities found next would shake the community to its core. In December 2010, near Gilgo Beach, a police officer and his K-9 partner, Blue, made a grim discovery. Not Gilbert's remains, but the bodies of 4 other women. When DNA IDs came back, the victims emerged. They were Melissa Barthelemy, 24, missing since July 2009, Maureen Brainerd Barnes, 25, missing since 2007, Megan Waterman, 22, missing since June 2010, and Amber Lynn Costello, 27, missing since September 2010. All found within 500 feet, same burlap signature, same method of concealment. Investigators now understood. This was no coincidence. A serial predator was at work. These were the Gilgo 4. How could 4 women disappear without anyone noticing? What connects these victims? And what does it tell us about the killer? Behind every victim was a life, a story, cut tragically short. Maureen Brainerd Barnes was a single mother and poet from Norwich, Connecticut. She loved to write, her journals filled with reflections and raw emotion. She had turned to escort work years earlier to make ends meet, but after a break, she returned out of financial desperation. It was a decision she confided in her sister about, one that would eventually lead to her disappearance in 2007. Megan Waterman was only 22 when she disappeared. A mother from Maine, she had traveled to Long Island for work, hoping to make enough money to start over. Her family described her as someone who was tough but kind, trying to do the best she could for her daughter while navigating a dangerous world few truly understood. She was last seen leaving a Holiday Inn in Hopage in 2010. Amber Lynn Costello was the closest to home. She lived in Babylon, just a short drive from where her remains were found. Amber was an artist who painted between rehab stints. She had struggled with addiction, yes, but she also laughed easily, made friends quickly, and still believed things could get better. The night she disappeared, she had been contacted by someone using a fake name, someone precise and controlling, a man who requested her by name. She left her home and never came back. Melissa Barthelemy lived in the Bronx and dreamed of opening her own salon. At just 24, she was driven and resourceful, advertising carefully online to screen clients and stay safe. But in July 2009, Melissa vanished. Then something even more terrifying happened. Her teenage sister began receiving taunting phone calls from Melissa's own phone. The caller was calm, mocking, and cold. He described what he had done. He asked if she was as pretty as her sister. These calls would go on for weeks, a horrific psychological torment for the family. The family, desperate for answers, handed the information to police who eventually worked with Verizon to tap Amanda's phone. Investigators were able to trace some of the calls, not to a single home, but to several high-traffic areas in Midtown Manhattan, near the Port Authority, the Empire State Building, and Times Square. The caller was always one step ahead. He never stayed on the line long enough to be located in real time, but from the recordings, authorities began to piece together a profile. While the calls didn't immediately lead to an arrest, they were a pivotal moment in the case. They revealed not just the killer's cruelty, but his desire for control, for power, and they gave investigators their first glimpse into a pattern of taunting, premeditated behavior that would later prove central to the prosecution's case. In March and April 2011, 6 more bodies were found in the vicinity. Among them were the dismembered remains of Valerie Mack and Jessica Taylor. The discovery also included supporting evidence of a child and a young Asian male in women's clothing. Years later, DNA evidence would also connect the unsolved 1993 murder of Sandra Castilla to this wider series of crimes. A young woman found in a wooded area of Southampton, Long Island, her case had baffled investigators for decades, highlighting the chilling longevity of the killer's activities. The variation in disposal methods and victim profiles suggested a chilling possibility. More than one killer was at large. While families searched desperately for answers, the investigation itself faced critical setbacks, delays that would haunt the case for years. At the helm of the Suffolk County Police Department during the early years of the Gilgo Beach investigation was Chief James Burke, a rising star in law enforcement with a reputation for toughness and total control. When bodies began turning up along Ocean Parkway, Burke made a controversial decision. He blocked FBI involvement in the investigation, insisting the Suffolk County PD could handle it alone. His refusal to allow FBI assistance delayed vital forensic analysis and interagency cooperation. In those lost years, victims' families waited and waited. The silence wasn't just haunting, it was enforced. Families accused law enforcement of dismissing sex worker victims, and not without reason. In Shannan Gilbert's case, despite a chilling 911 call and eyewitnesses seeing her flee in terror, police were slow to act and publicly suggested her death was accidental. Years of frustration and unanswered questions eventually sparked renewed efforts, a task force armed with new technology and determination to catch the killer. By tracing DNA left at crime scenes through public family databases, investigators began narrowing down suspects. Their focus landed on Rex Heuermann, a 6'4" licensed architect who lived quietly in Massapequa Park, just miles from where the bodies were found. To the public, 59-year-old Rex Heuermann seemed like an unlikely predator. He ran his own successful Manhattan-based architecture firm and worked with high-profile clients. On paper, he was a quiet suburban professional, commuting to work, raising a family. But investigators painted a far darker portrait.
Rex Heuermann is a demon that walks among us, a predator that ruined families.
When the news broke, neighbors were stunned. Many described him as an odd but harmless man.
He was a kind of a nerdy kind of guy, odd, but not a troublemaker, and he was soft-spoken, and we spoke regularly, and I'm surprised at the violence.
Heuermann's wife and children were reportedly out of town during the times prosecutors believed the murders occurred, a chilling detail suggesting planning and calculation. His wife, who filed for divorce shortly after his arrest, was said to be completely blindsided by the accusations. But behind the carefully constructed image of a family man and professional, investigators uncovered a hidden world. Burner phones linked to Heuermann were used to contact escorts. Cell tower pings placed him near the locations and times of the victims' disappearances. He purchased SIM cards anonymously, used VPNs to mask his communications, and searched phrases like "how to dispose of a body." A digital trail, prosecutors say, that stripped away the illusion and revealed a pattern of predation. In his basement vault, investigators found more than 270 firearms, burner phones, and a typed murder manual. It instructed pre-clean weapon, remove head hands, use kitty litter disinfection. This cold, clinical blueprint showed a killer who planned with terrifying calculation. It was this chilling evidence that paved the way for the breakthrough arrest that would finally bring the suspect into the spotlight. Rex Heuermann was arrested on July 13, 2023, at around 8:30 p.m. in Midtown Manhattan, outside his office building. Initially charged with the murders of the Gilgo Four, prosecutors have since added charges for the murders of Valerie Mack, Jessica Taylor, and Sandra Castilla, leading to 7 murder charges in total. As of now, a trial date has not been set, and the legal proceedings are ongoing. Prosecutors are expected to present a mountain of digital, forensic, and testimonial evidence, while the defense is expected to argue the evidence is circumstantial. Images of search logs, cell tower maps, and mitochondrial DNA expert testimony are expected to be powerful tools for the prosecution. Defense claims of other suspects or incomplete DNA analysis will likely be central to their strategy. From the start, investigators considered other suspects. The sprawling nature of the case, with bodies found over many miles and years, initially raised the possibility of multiple perpetrators. But to date, Heuermann remains the only person charged in connection with these 7 murders. Police continue to investigate, searching for any links that might point to accomplices or additional suspects in the broader Gilgo Beach Murders case. The search for complete truth continues. Shannan's body was ultimately found in December 2011 in the marsh. The coroner ruled accidental drowning, but her family disputed it, citing possible strangulation. To date, authorities haven't charged Heuermann with her death. Whether she was one of his victims remains a crucial, unanswered question in the wider investigation. Following Heuermann's arrest, the families of the victims began to speak out. For Maureen's daughter, Nicolette, the passage of time only amplified the profound void left by her mother's absence.
I'm here to speak for my mom, Maureen. I was only 7 years old when my mother was murdered. Her loss drastically changed the trajectory of my life. There are countless times I needed her and she was not there. I remember she read to me every night, and now I can no longer remember the sound of her voice. I wish she was here today, but she was taken from us.
Megan's sister, Allie, remembers her not for how she was tragically lost, but for the compassionate spirit she truly possessed.
That she was just a normal person and that she had a normal, loving heart, just like any person that you walk down next to on the sidewalk. And she didn't deserve this, just like nobody else's mother or sister or daughter deserves this.
She also described how the arrest brought a crucial turning point, offering a glimpse of the peace they've long sought.
It is such a relief that we do know who it was and that it will come to an end eventually.
These powerful voices remind us that behind every headline are real lives, forever altered, yet holding on to hope for justice. This case has not only brought a suspect to light, but has also exposed systemic issues in how missing persons cases are handled, particularly for marginalized communities. As this dark chapter unfolds, many questions remain unanswered, and the fight for justice continues. What do you think about the investigation so far? Do you believe justice will be served in this complex case? Are there other angles or suspects you think investigators should explore? Could more victims still be out there? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more true crime stories you won't want to miss.